It's good to have you.
Yeah.
Because we need a college football expert for this. America's favorite segment.
No.
It's free money!
Did you just knock your headphones off?
I'm
See,
so
it's time
excited.
to, it's time to be done with that.
Free money!
No, not twice,
Well,
please.
free
no.
money.
You came to the right place. I do know at least a couple of college football experts.
That's great.
I'll try and get them on the line.
Yeah, let's try it. Let's see if we can get them done. Shahan J. Raj is here for free money. Our college football picks against the spread. Look, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to look at you directly in the camera. Can I get camera one?
It's free money. I don't think so.
Not a great week last week, guys. 2-5-1. It's rough. And in fact,
And
this
we
is true.
love it.
I started off 0-5, and I'm sitting there like going, "Oh no!"
Wow.
Oh man!
Oh, no.
And then the
But-
one rule that he was like, the guaranteed rule of free money all the time. Don't bet against UTEP covering the spread in North Texas, and it happened.
And it happened.
made
Yeah.
my heart real happy.
But we did get. But then we rallied. We won 2 of the last 3, and SMU by virtue of going for that 2-point conversion,
Hell yeah.
screwed me into a push.
Hell yeah.
So that's why I was going to be 3-5, which would have been like, oh, okay, that's not great, but fine. You know what I mean? 2-5-1's rough. Anyway, I'm 42-31-4 on the year. 41-32-4. So
I should
9
probably
games above
keep
500.
track of mine, but I don't.
Yeah.
And therefore you can't be mad at me.
Because you have better things to do.
yeah, don't we all?
So we've got 8 games this week.
Yep.
A lot. The thing about this week, though, a lot smaller spreads. Last week was a bunch of huge spreads, and you're just wondering what we're gonna do. This feels like it may be a little bit more manageable because of that. So, or maybe not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing that I'll say, great week of football. Last game starts at 3 p.m.
Yeah, guys,
You
if
get
you
it over with.
if
as
you've
soon
got
as
evening
possible.
plans, you're set, man.
The week.
You are.
My
set.
parents asked, "Hey, are you free to do something in the evening?" And I'm like, "No, it's Saturday." And then
you look at it and you go,
"All right, let's go."
I am. We can go to dinner.
All right.
It's a bunch of it's really front loaded.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Ashley, what's our first game?
Up first, we have, here it comes, and there it is, East Carolina at 25 SMU in Dallas, 11 a.m. Saturday. SMU favored by 21.5.
So here's the thing about East Carolina.
Yeah.
They're not good.
Correct.
I don't know if that's a real hot take.
It is not.
That's not a hot take. East Carolina's bad.
Yeah.
They're quite bad. In fact, if you look at Bill Connolly's SP Plus, even though they're 3-6,
Yeah.
they are 109th in SP Plus. They are quite bad at everything.
Correct.
They don't really do anything particularly well. And so that to me, the line feels about right there on that. It's 22.5, which makes me nervous only because I like the more round number, or 21.5.
Yeah.
If you can tease that thing down to 21, I would do it. But here's the bottom line of it. This is a good SMU team coming home that I think should have a little bit of revenge on its mind and be like, you know what, let's get that taste out of our mouth. Let's go out there and beat up on a team we're a lot better than. I think they do that. If you can tease that thing down to 21, that's probably the play. But I will take SMU minus 21.5. I think they just come home and I think they take care of business.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a big game for their defense too. I think that they're going to be really motivated after what happened last week. I have a 30-second soapbox I need to jump on.
Here with the 30-second soapbox is Shahan.
Why is SMU ranked behind Boise State and Navy? Because you look at Boise State's schedule, right? They have a loss to BYU. Not a terrible loss, but a loss. They don't have a win anywhere near as good as what, Temple or TCU or anything like that. And then Navy and SMU have basically played the same schedule. Both lost to Memphis, except you replace Air Force with TCU.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't understand. Like, it just feels like crazy overreaction. And trust me, I have a lot more about this on the Republic of Football, which you should check out. But
Good tease.
Yes, but
Plug it.
It is. I know that I should not care about the playoff rankings, and I know that
You're
this
right.
is just whatever. But every year they do this, and I just don't understand why SMU would be penalized for losing by 6 points to a really good team on the road like this.
Yeah. Listen. You have my full support in this take. You have my full support.
Yeah. So and for me, I think that I think that SMU's it's going to be a cathartic
A
experience.
vengeful SMU team.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because they've been able to get by without being super focused at times. I think they're going to come out very focused.
I
this
think
week.
you're right. What's next, Ashley?
Up next, we'll head over to the Big 12. It's Shahan's favorite Baylor Bears, number 12, have taken on TCU.
Excuse me, I am a UTEP fan.
Yeah. I'm a Rice fan.
Baylor is
We're all
favored
very
by
sad.
2.5. We're all yeah, I'm a
all
North
right.
Texas fan.
So,
it just gets worse.
So here's the thing. In a vacuum, very good line.
Yeah.
Very good line in this one, in a vacuum, because TCU and Baylor's always a weird game. It's always very tight. TCU tends to play its best game against Baylor.
Yeah.
Big
And Baylor's going on the road. Did not look good the last time we saw them. There's a lot to like about maybe taking TCU in this game.
And TCU wants to hand them their first.
100%. Gary Patterson's going to have his boys ready.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the quarterback situation.
Well, even before the quarterback situation, this line was a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Because what West Virginia was able to do last week to cause Baylor some issues was get to the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And TCU does not get to the quarterback at all. And now, if you haven't looked at TexasFootball.com, so their starter, Max Duggan, probably will play, but has some sort of hand injury. We're not sure whether it's a ligament, whether it's a broken finger, but it's a significant injury.
On his throwing hand.
On his throwing hand.
Not ideal.
Yeah, not great. Again, he's probably going to play because here's why. Their backup, Michael Collins, has like an internal injury and can't play.
Yikes.
Alex Delton quit the team.
Yes.
Justin Rogers announced he was transferring last week.
Yes.
Matthew Baldwin just threw a football for the first time on Sunday.
Okay.
So if Max Duggan can't play,
So their options right now are
Max Duggan
injured
can't-
Max Duggan.
right, and the alternative is former Georgia quarterback who was a walk-on at both schools, Matthew Downing, who completed 58% of his passes at Alpharetta High School, and like actually got in at Georgia, got in garbage time. Also, still a walk-on, still hasn't played a meaningful snap of football at the college level. Not great.
Yeah.
Not great. And I mean the fact that even we're talking about Max Duggan maybe having like a major finger injury and having to play still.
Yeah.
Kind of says a whole lot about
I would
that
say
situation.
So. Well, look, here ultimately the game will probably come down to now. It was always going to come down to this, but it's probably going to come down to whether or not TCU can run the ball. And the problem for TCU is that Baylor, we can certainly talk about the things Baylor doesn't do well.
Right.
One of the things they do very well, stop the run.
Yeah, they've been elite stopping the run this year. And the other thing too is that Baylor's been really good at getting to the quarterback too. So like if you're going to tell me that Max Duggan maybe can't throw a football and also he can't hang on to the ball because Baylor's going to get to him, and also maybe he can't hand the ball off to the running back, this
seems like a bad matchup.
I don't know what exactly TCU's going to do. Now, let's be totally clear. TCU has a very good chance of winning this game because this is Baylor TCU and stupid stuff happens to make TCU win. I was at that 16-9 game last year where Jalen Reagor broke away for 2 touchdowns out of the Wildcat. I've seen things.
It's the Texas version of El Assico.
Right.
It's just weird.
It's weird. Again, when I'm looking at this matchup objectively, I don't understand how it could possibly be this low a line.
Yeah.
And it hasn't moved since Duggan, it was announced that he was injured. But yeah, I mean, you also have to take into account that Gary Patterson just does some things, and boy, does that man love beating Baylor.
He really does.
Yeah.
But I'm taking Baylor minus 2.5. Are you taking Baylor minus 2.5?
Yeah.
Like the numbers say that. Like at this point, you would have to be talking yourself into weird football, which I'm totally able to do.
And which will happen at
Yes.
times for sure. And I'll be there. So if you see me at the game, come say hi.
Yes. What's next, Ashley?
Perfect. Up next, we have another Big 12 matchup. Texas Tech heading out to West Bygod, Virginia. 11 a.m. on Saturday. Tech favored by 2.5 again.
So the thing about West Virginia is, again, just like not very, very good.
Yeah.
They're just not a very good football team.
Yeah.
They are at home, which is certainly helpful because nobody likes to go to West Virginia. This is a team that strikes me as a team that like, and they've always been like this. Maybe not always, but when I think of West Virginia, I think about offense, defense will figure it out, right? Kind of like in a lot of ways, kind of like Texas Tech in that way.
Not as bad as Texas.
Not as bad as Texas
Yeah,
Tech, not stark. But here's the problem: the offense just has not come along for them. That's a big problem for them.
Now their defensive line is really good.
Their defensive line is very good, and that's going to be the big question in this matchup: is can TCU, or rather can Tech, protect Jeff Duffy?
Yeah.
Can they establish any sort of running game with Sir Roderick Thompson? That is, to me, going to be the big matchup in this game. In the end, though, I think you go with the team that is playing a little bit better right now, and that's Texas Tech. I mean, I think that this is a team that look, we can certainly talk about what they don't do well, but I think that I think when they have the ball, they're going to have an advantage, especially if they're able to run the ball. Because the other thing, West Virginia's, like you mentioned, West Virginia gets to the quarterback, and that's true. Tech doesn't give up a ton of sacks.
No.
And if West Virginia doesn't get to the quarterback, they get torched in the secondary.
Right.
And so that was basically what happened last week against Baylor was West Virginia was able to get to the quarterback, and that's what cut the legs out from underneath the Baylor offense.
Right.
West Virginia is going to come after Jet Duffy, but the Texas Tech offensive line is a lot better right now than Baylor's offensive line, at least a pass protection.
Yeah.
And that should be the key that I think jumpstarts Texas Tech to a win. I like Tech minus 2.5.
Yeah. And so I was a little surprised that that Tech was favored in this game. Not because I think that Tech is a worse team. I mean, I think they are 3 points better than West Virginia, but just because Tech's coming off of a bad loss. West Virginia is coming off a really good performance against a good team. The game is in Morgantown, which is a tough place to get to. So I was a little surprised that the numbers ended up being on Tech's side, but I do think that Tech's going to win the game. I mean, they've had a week off. I have a lot of faith in that coaching staff. They're only going to get healthier on the offensive line, which I think is a big deal in this game, of course. And look, Jet Duffy's kept getting better. He's had his issues. He's turned the ball over. That's been a problem for him, but he has kept getting better. And I don't also think that this West Virginia secondary is the one that's going to be able to force a ton of takeaways, get him in trouble. So, and the other thing, too, is that he's done a good job of rushing and scrambling in the right situations. That's something that I think he's really improved on from last year, and I think that's something that will really be able to break West Virginia's contain a little bit and cause some issues.
Here's the funny thing about this game
that
I think is really interesting. Third downs.
Yeah.
Both West Virginia and Tech are terrible at converting third down, and both West Virginia and Tech are terrible at stopping third down.
Something's got to give.
Something's going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have a lot more faith that Jet Duffy's going to figure out that third down stuff than that Austin Kendall is, because I'll tell you what. I watched live as West Virginia struggled to get 200 yards against Baylor a week ago, and I also think same deal. Like we were talking about with SMU, I think that this is an opportunity for Tech to come out defensively and have a big game and cause some issues, and because they're going to be motivated. They've had a week off. They've had a week to think about it. They've had a week to game plan. I think they might be able to really, really shut down this team.
What's next, Ashley?
Real fast, really cool little stat that was given out that I feel like I would be really impressed if either of you knew this one.
Okay.
Sam Fowler, Weird Football. Baylor is 0-4 on natural grass under Matt Rule.
It's kind of weird.
Can either of you say that you actually knew that stat? Like off the top
I did
of
not
your
know
head?
that stat, but
That was from Sam Fowler.
you wrote
by
the
way.
TCU preview, right? For the magazine?
I did.
And
yes.
didn't Gary Patterson bring up the grass?
He talked a lot about grass. Go back and read your Dave Campbell's Sex Football if you haven't as yet. He was very excited about this grass. The one thing I'll say, though, I'm trying to think of the Big 12 teams that use grass. Iowa State uses grass.
Mm-hmm.
TCU obviously uses grass, so that's
I knew this at
2
one point,
losses. Does Oklahoma use
No, they're turf.
No, they're turf.
That's fine.
I'm trying to remember who else.
Let's move on. Come on.
Yeah.
What's next?
Up next, we've got UTSA at Old Dominion, 1 o'clock on Saturday.
I don't know. I'd rather
ODU
talk about turf than this game.
Yeah.
ODU favored by 4 at home.
If you want to talk about disrespect, Old Dominion is 1-8, and they are catching 4 points at home.
And their one win is over Norfolk State.
But, I mean, what you've got is a really interesting clash of the movable object against the resistible force. Because when Old Dominion has the ball, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because Old Dominion is super bad offensively.
Right.
And UTSA, quite bad defensively.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. The other side of the ball is probably where Old Dominion has an advantage.
Yeah.
Their defense is bad, but not horrifying.
Right.
UTSA, their offense is very, very bad. So, to me, that's where I lean towards, I hate to say it, but Old Dominion. Being at home, you're asking UTSA to go on the road to Virginia. Early kickoff on an East Coast game. Changing time zones. It's going to be body clocks. It's going to be weird. I would say.
That's the furthest Conference USA school.
Yeah, and I would also say, consider this. Just had daylight savings, so their body clock's already messed up.
Wow. Mine is. I can tell you that
that's
much.
some
Mine
galaxy
is
brain.
all over the place.
I like
right
Old
now.
Dominion -4.
Has there ever been a team with multiple wins over FBS opponents to be underdogs against 2 teams that have not beaten any FBS opponents? Because Norfolk State only has a 3-point win over an FCS opponent, and then they were underdogs against Rice, too.
Yeah.
I think that UTSA is really bad, but I think that Sincere McCormick is the best player on that field.
Okay.
I think that he's going to be able to cause some issues. Now, Old Dominion, like you said, isn't a horrible defense, especially against the run. They're not bad. But I do think that that UTSA might be good enough defensively, not great, but like good enough defensively to really just prevent Old Dominion from doing anything of value. This is going to be a terrible football game. I think I teased it 3 times. 1 p.m. on ESPN3. Make sure you turn it on. But but I think that UTSA knows that they only have a couple opportunities for wins this season, and I think that I know it's on the road, but cool. A Norfolk crowd.
Hey, man.
ODU almost burned down their entire city when they beat someone last year.
You don't need
who is that someone, Ashley?
I'll look it up.
You don't just walk into.
Wait, do you really not remember who they beat last year on the?
No.
Listen.
Oh, God.
I thought you were joking.
No, I really didn't remember.
You don't just walk into SB Ballard Stadium and win. I'm gonna go with Old Dominion -4. What's next, Ashley?
Give me UTSA.
Yeah.
Okay.
South Alabama at Texas State, 2 p.m. Saturday. Texas State favored by 7. Was it supposed to be 7.5? You put
It's 7.5. Yeah, it's not 7.6.
Okay.
7.5.
I was like, you put 6. I didn't think that was right. But anyway, at home.
It is functionally the same
Right.
as
Hey,
7.5.
right,
7
yeah.
and a little.
7 and a smidge.
Here.
Okay. So this is a bad South Alabama team. Like
Yeah.
a super bad South Alabama
Yeah.
team. Like bad at everything. South Alabama team.
Yeah.
In fact, you are now going to be treated to 2 of the worst offenses in the nation, squaring off against one another.
Cool.
But in the end, and Jake Spavital was kind of talking about this
Yeah.
in his press conference.
Yeah.
He was kind of alluding to it, but basically, he more or less said that if they lose this game, like it is going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
South Alabama is super bad. They're bad at everything. They are most especially bad offensively. So this game should be pretty low scoring, I would say. But the thing for me is Texas State should please be able to throw the ball a little bit. They
Yeah.
should be able to pass the ball a little bit on one of the very worst secondaries in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Take advantage of this. Come on, Texas State. I'm taking Texas State -7.6.
Here's my issue, right? I think Texas State's going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
What has Texas State done to be favored by 8 against anybody?
I agree with that.
I mean, that's ultimately it. I just don't think that either of these teams has the ability to win by 2 scores. Like, I think Texas State could win by 3. I think they could win by 7.
Yeah.
They're not going to win by more than 7.
Okay.
So Texas
That's
State
fair.
wins. I
South
can't see them
Alabama covers.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next, Ashley?
Back to Conference USA, we've got Charlotte at UTEP, 2 p.m. Saturday. Charlotte favored by 13 on the road.
This game makes me extremely
God,
sad.
this 3-game stretch
Is
is one of the worst I've ever
brutal.
seen.
It gets
UTSA at
better
Old
after this.
Dominion, South Alabama at Texas State, Charlotte at UTEP.
If UTEP's offense is ever going to get into gear, it's now. Charlotte's not a terrible team.
Yeah.
They're not terrible like on
No.
the
And
level
they're
that
coming
we're
off
kind of
2
used to.
pretty
talking
good
about.
wins.
Yeah, but their defense is horrifying.
Yeah.
Their defense is very bad. Now, here's the problem. Charlotte's going to score, like, a pretty fair amount in this game. Like,
Yeah.
Charlotte's pretty good offensively. And that's probably going to be enough.
Mhm.
Because even if you, like, what would be a good amount for UTEP to score in this game? 21?
21.
If they score
Yeah.
21, that would be like, oh, okay, that offense overachieved. Well, like what it's done for the rest of the year. You're asking the defense to hold this offense to 34? I just don't have. I think it's at like 35-21 written all over it. I'm gonna go Charlotte -13.
I think you're forgetting something.
What's that?
It's redshirt season.
Ooh, it is redshirt season. Deion Hankins.
Dan Hankins, Gavin Hardison. We're going to get some new bodies in there. Does it matter? I don't know.
Probably not.
But you know what? It's enough for me to go on our UTEP rule and get them to
Okay.
only lose by 10.
Okay.
Again, I same deal with Charlotte. They've won some big games the last 2 weeks, obviously. I don't think that they have done enough against anybody to be favored by 2 touchdowns.
I think I agree with that. What's next, Ashley?
Up next, we will head to the Big 12. A very good matchup, actually. Number 16, Kansas State, heading down to DKR, taking on Texas, 2:30 p.m. Saturday. Texas favored by 7 at home.
I have to say something
Go.
about this game, too.
Launch into it.
Why is Texas favored by a touchdown against this team? Like, I don't think that Kansas State is as good as number 16 by
Agreed.
any means.
Agreed.
But I do know that Texas has struggled against teams that can move the ball, against teams that can attack the edge, against teams that can get to the second level, which Kansas State proved they could do in their last game. Texas hasn't really beaten anybody that convincingly, especially the good teams that they played this year. And Kansas State, I mean, it was under Bill Snyder, but they've had their number in Austin. I mean, Kansas State probably has covered like the last 10 games that they've played against Texas. I don't understand why this line is 7. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think Texas could very well win this game, but beating them by more than 7, I mean, I don't know about that.
I 100% agree with you on everything. This line strikes me as a little bit like a little overcooking it. I think it's okay for Texas to be a favorite. Right?
Yeah.
Like, for example,
Texas by 3.
Yeah, Texas by 3. I think that would be fine. But Texas by 7 seems like a lot, especially against a Kansas State team that is playing pretty good ball right now. The big question for me is going to be, can Texas run the ball?
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the weakness in this Kansas State defense is their kind of front 7. Can they run the ball? This feels like a game Sam Ehlinger is going to carry the ball 25, 30 times. I think they're going to lean on him and say, well, you got to carry us to a win. I think Texas wins, but I don't think they cover.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kansas State plus 7, but I think that Texas wins the game outright.
Yeah, the big thing for me, and again, I do think Texas wins by, again, 3 or less. But the big thing with me is that Kansas State proved against Oklahoma that if they can find an inefficiency on your defense, they can ride it all day long.
Yeah.
Right? And for Texas, setting the edge has been an issue for them this year. And obviously, just general pass defense has been an issue for them. And Kansas State has a couple of game breakers on that team, not to mention, obviously, what they can do on special teams. And so, if you are looking at these two teams, you're waiting for one of them to make a mistake, and Texas is going to be the team that makes a mistake. Kansas State is not going to make mistakes.
I agree with that.
So I just think that Kansas State, I just don't know how you can look at this game and think, Texas is going to run away with this game.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that at all.
I agree with that. The numbers point to a close game, and so I
Yeah.
think Texas wins the close game. But I think it's still a close game, so I think it's within a touchdown. Yeah,
And granted, if Texas goes out and blows them out, hell yeah, we're back.
And then
Yeah.
Tep gets a pick
Texas is
from.
back.
Texas is back. And finally, Ashley.
Finally, the Mean Green heading over to Louisiana Tech, 3 p.m. on Saturday. La Tech favored by 5.5 at home.
Can I be honest? I think this is the toughest game to call this week.
Yeah.
This is a really, really tough game to call because
Because North Texas needs it.
what is North Texas offensively, right? That is the big question, is
Yeah.
what is North Texas offensively? Last week, stunning. Like, that's what you should look like. Going up against the Louisiana Tech defense, that is not amazing, but is solid. Like, they're solid. The big problem for me and where I run into trouble is that when Louisiana Tech has the ball, whether they're throwing the ball or whether they're running the ball, I think they're going to have a lot of success. This is a game that if North Texas is going to win this game, it's got to be a shootout,
Yeah.
in my opinion. The big key in this one is they got to keep Mason Fine clean, got to make sure he has time to throw. It's up to the offensive line again. And again, the weird thing is that North Texas's sack rate is not, like, offensively, is not terrible. In fact,
Yeah.
it's pretty good. And Louisiana Tech does not get after the quarterback, which is a good sign there. But, like, what they does, I wish there was like a pressure stat because it seems like Mason Fine is always having to hurry throws. He gets them away. He's very good at getting them away.
A lot of those
that
are
offensive
Mason
line.
Fine just keeping things alive.
Exactly. This is going to be a really interesting test for this offensive line that is not, against a defense that does not get pressure on the quarterback. They do not get pressure on the quarterback. Mason Fine should have time to throw. In the end, though, you're asking North Texas to go on the road.
And it's their homecoming.
Answer
too.
home. Okay, even more so. I like Louisiana Tech minus 5.5. I think they win by about a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but to me, this isn't a tough game to call.
Oh, really?
I think that Louisiana Tech can take advantage of everything that North Texas is bad at because they have a quarterback who's performing as well as anybody in Conference USA right now in Jamar Smith. And they have blown out teams too. You look at their previous results: beat UTEP by 21, beat Southern Miss by 15, obviously beat UMass by 48, beat FIU by 12, beat Bowling Green by 38. Like, they have dominated teams this year, and I just look at this North Texas secondary, which has been a huge issue all year. I mean, they haven't been able to get much of anything going. And I just think that Louisiana Tech's going to blitz them. And I think that they're going to potentially go up big. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Mason Fine still might be the best player in this game. But I just don't see...
But the second, third, fourth, fifth belong to
Yeah,
Louisiana Tech.
again, I'm just so worried about this North Texas defense. I don't think that they can do much of anything. And Louisiana Tech plays good defense. They are able to get stops And here's the issue: if Louisiana Tech gets 3 stops, that might be 14
enough.
points.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that I do think that if North Texas gets into this game at all, it's still a shootout, and so then you're talking touchdowns, not field goals. So then 7 is easy to me.
Yeah.
If the line was 7.5, maybe I'd think about it. I just don't feel like I have
5.5.
to think about it.
Those are your free money picks. I like SMU minus 21.5 at home against East Carolina. I like Baylor minus 2.5 at TCU. I like Texas Tech minus 2.5 at West Virginia. I like Old Dominion minus 4 at home against UTSA. I like Texas State minus 7.5 at home against South Alabama. Please cover that Texas State. Otherwise, it's just going to have a lot of heartburn. Charlotte minus 13 at UTEP. I like Kansas State plus 7 at Texas, although I like Texas to win outright. And I like Louisiana Tech minus 5.5 at home against North Texas.